Donald Trump is panicking at the worst moment of his catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran. Trump escalating this war to the point where some people are wondering if Trump intends to use nuclear weapons on Iran. And that is a distinct possibility after the post he just made where he threatened war crimes to obliterate the entire civilization of Iran if they refuse to negotiate with him. And Iran said, we're not going to negotiate with you ever again when you use that language. All communications, even through intermediaries, has totally been cut off after Donald Trump made a post about wiping out the Iranian people, the entire Iranian civilization, right after Donald Trump previously said, we're here to save the Iranian people. He says we're going to obliterate the civilization. Iran says there shall be no further even efforts to communicate through intermediaries, even to exchange messages, right? There's never been negotiations, according to Iran. There have been some messages that went back and forth through Pakistan and others. They said, stop talking to us after you made that post. And while Donald Trump made that post, the United States and Israel were striking in one of the largest escalations, striking Tehran, striking the Karg Island. Israel was striking train rails over there in Iran as well, the railway system rather. Let me show you what Donald Trump posted earlier this morning. He goes, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world, 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. So he says he will wipe out the civilization of Iran tonight, then says, God bless the great people of Iran. Now, even some of the biggest former sycophants of Donald Trump are calling for the 25th Amendment. Marjorie Taylor Greene says invoke the 25th Amendment. Alex Jones says invoke the 25th Amendment. There's actually a lot of people, far right-wing people, saying you got to get this guy out right now. Of course, most people in the country who are thinking straight right now think that the 25th Amendment needs to be invoked and Donald Trump needs to be removed. But what he's bragging about right there is genocide, it's war crimes, and we need to call it out. After he posted that, and while the Israeli and U.S. strikes were taking place, some of the biggest strikes yet in the war, we now learned Iran said no communication at all, even through intermediaries. The Wall Street Journal, citing 3 Iranian officials, has said Iran has cut off communications with the U.S. as Donald Trump's strike deadline approaches. He calls it Bridge Day, where he's going to blow up all the bridges and power plants and all of the civilian infrastructure. Now, we're seeing in Iran, as I'm recording this, Iranians are forming human chains around power plants and bridges as Trump warns a whole civilization will die tonight. Dropsite has some of the video footage. So does Clash Report. You see a human chain has been formed on the White Bridge in Avaz in Iran. You see the Bisatan power plant in western Iran, people forming a human chain there. The Tabriz power plant in northwestern Iran. You know, what was fascinating may not be the right word about all of this. You know, I was up all night thinking about today and Trump's deadline about wiping out the civilization of Iran. And I noticed that very early in the morning, like my time, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I saw this post from the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan, and I thought it was a hopeful post. Reza Moghadam wrote, Pakistan positive and productive endeavors in goodwill and good office to stop the war is approaching a critical, sensitive stage. Stay tuned for more. So I viewed that post right there by the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan, who is very influential in the power structure of Iran, I said, okay, there's an olive branch. Maybe there's a ceasefire. I never thought there could be because Iran said, we don't want a ceasefire. They said, we want a permanent end to the war with security guarantees, reparations, full control of the Strait of Hormuz. And they want to keep their ballistic missile, Shahed drone, and FPV drone. So it would surprise me that a ceasefire could develop out of all of this. But, hope springs eternal. And I saw this and I said, maybe. And then within a half hour after that, I saw other breaking news, and I was up all night following this. Then it was like huge explosions in Tehran as fighter jets fly above the Iranian capital. U.S. and Israeli strikes all throughout Tehran, probably within about a half hour of Rezi Magadam posting that, where I'm like, maybe there's some breakthrough that I don't know is taking place. I'm like, well, J.D. Vance is in Hungary, glazing Viktor Orban and telling people you got to vote for Orban and trying to influence the Hungary election with Putin. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe hopefully there's peace. And then I see this, more attacks, the U.S. and Israel attacks on Kashir and Parshin sites in Tehran. You can see it right here. And then, then the Karg Island, reports of strikes all throughout Karg Island in the northern Persian Gulf, the home of the primary oil export terminal of the Islamic Republic. And then we started getting other messages out. The president of Iran, Pezeshkian, he wrote, over 14 million proud Iranians have up to this moment declared their readiness to sacrifice their lives in defense of Iran. I too have been and am and will be sacrificed for Iran. I will be a sacrificer for Iran. Then the Axios report that Donald Trump is the most bloodthirsty person anybody in the White House has ever seen. He's like a mad dog. He's bloodthirsty. White House senior officials are telling Axios. Hegseth and Rubio sound like doves compared to Donald Trump, who is outright bloodthirsty. Dominic Trippi writes that, and I don't disagree with this. Trump using a nuclear weapon is a distinct possibility right now. And Donald Trump now says, no, I'm not going to use nukes. You said you're going to end the entire civilization of Iran. How else can that be interpreted? The extremity of Trump's threats, coupled with his growing desperation to find a way out of the conflict, has increased fears that a volatile president could try to use nuclear weapons. Under the U.S. system, a U.S. president has sole authority to order a nuclear launch. To do so, he would summon a security conference call of the National Military Command Center, which would typically involve top officials such as the Defense Secretary, the Armed Forces Commander, but it would depend on who is available on such short notice. A military aide who is always close to the president would open the nuclear football, a briefcase containing nuclear strike options, as well as the codes to confirm his presidential authority. The only way to stop the order would be for those in the chain of command to deem it illegal. And they, in my opinion, should be in everybody's opinion, have an obligation to declare this illegal. These are war crimes. Trump is threatening a Holocaust. I mean, he's saying it out loud. The Iranian embassy social media accounts are saying, don't play with fire. The Iranian embassy social media accounts say, solution, the 25th Amendment, Section 4. Who is the most hated person in the world right now? Then they write, Trump told, a whole civilization will die tonight. Then Iran writes, you and your allies will suffer an unforgettable hit from the ancient civilization of Iran. And Iran saying self-control is over, that if the U.S. goes along with the attacks that Donald Trump is threatening, Iran says that it has its missiles positioned and it is ready to force the Middle East to descend into total darkness and shut down as well the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is in the Red Sea. Already they control the Strait of Hormuz, that they're going to tell the Houthis, shut down the Bab el-Mandeb waterway. And they say, we're going to send the Middle East into complete darkness if you attack us like this. Senior Iranian sources tell Reuters that if the United States attacks Iran's power plants, the entire region will fall into darkness, threatening to attack energy infrastructure throughout the Middle East, adding that if the situation gets out of control, it will work with the Houthis to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Sources state that the threats by Iran were relayed to the Trump administration yesterday through both Pakistan and Qatar. Meanwhile, the IDF announced as I'm reading this, that they've attacked 8 bridges in Iran today. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel says, "Today we attacked the railways and bridges used by the Revolutionary Guard." Also, senior Israeli officials are telling their local media, Iran will burn. If the deadline is not met, Iran will burn. Meanwhile, notices are going out to anyone in the Middle East through any foreign embassy saying, shelter in place, things are about to escalate and get very, very dark and very, very bad. General Hertling, who you've seen on the MeidasTouch network, he's saying, military commanders, you got to stop him. You got to step in. You've got to stop him right now, immediately. End this right now. End this right now. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance is spewing Russian talking points during a visit that he's making right now to Hungary to help Viktor Orban, Putin's puppet, in Hungary. And he's just spewing exactly the Russian propaganda. You have the U.S. and Russia allied to try to prop up Viktor Orban with a concerted goal to destroy the European Union and to destroy NATO. And I'm not being hyperbolic. That's literally in the U.S. foreign policy doctrine that they say for 2026, 2027 is destroy the European Union by propping up basically people who are sympathetic to Putin. This statement right here is exactly what Putin says. Watch as J.D. Vance say, Ukraine is trying to rig the Hungary election. Here, play this clip.
So to answer your question, yes, we're certainly aware that there are elements within the Ukrainian intelligence services that tried to put their thumb on the scale of American elections, on Hungarian elections. This is just what they do. This is part of the cost of doing business within some elements of their system.
And then J.D. Vance says, I want to help Viktor Orban as much as possible in this election. Play this clip.
In support of Prime Minister Orban, because together the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Hungary have been able to do amazing things. And we're here because we want to celebrate those amazing things. We want to build upon those amazing things. And of course, I want to help as much as I possibly can the Prime Minister as he faces this election season, which I believe is happening in just about a week, the election to elect the next Prime Minister of Hungary.
And then J.D. Vance talks about how what's happened in this country, what's happened in the midst of the election, is so horrible. He's like, we see Brussels, meaning the European Union, is trying to interfere in Hungary's election. They're trying to put their finger on the scale, and we got to stop the European Union. So while all of this is going on, this is what he's saying. This is what J.D. Vance is saying. It's so embarrassing. Here, play this clip.
What has happened in this country, what has happened in the midst of this election campaign is one of the worst examples of foreign election interference that I've ever seen or ever even read about. The bureaucrats in Brussels have tried to destroy the economy of Hungary. They have tried to make Hungary less energy independent. They have tried to drive up costs for Hungarian consumers, and they've done it all because they hate this guy. But I think that what the people of Hungary, what I would encourage them to do is ask themselves the question, not who's pro or anti-Europe, not who's pro or anti the United States of America, but who is pro-you? Who is pro the people of Hungary?
We'll keep you posted every step of the way as we get more developments here on the MeidasTouch network. We'll keep reporting the truth. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks everybody for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.